So hey guys, it's Ziont again, and as requested, here's my Crysis 3 impressions video. It is not my first impressions video, because first impressions implies that I've played it very little, and it's my initial impressions. This is what I think of the beta after having played it for a while. As I said in my last video, I enjoy the game. Are there problems with it? Yes. Are there good things about it? Yes. And in this video I want to talk a little bit about both, and a little bit about why it's not on my buy list yet. So let's start with that. First of all, there's not enough here for me. I could play COD and get almost the exact same feeling. No, in COD I don't have a superhuman powered nanosuit. No, there isn't alien tech, but it's basically COD. I don't yet have enough faith in the map design that Crytek is using, so I don't know if they're nice looking, if they're crappy looking, or if they're all exactly like airport and museum, and just sort of close quarters, but not really sometimes, long sight lines with snipers, and I played enough Crysis 2 to know that eventually it digressed into, okay, here's a whole bunch of snipers, here's a whole bunch of shotgun users, and speed hacks, and aimbots, and Crytek didn't do a damn thing about any of it. That's what I'm worried about primarily. And I looked at the leaderboards when I was playing a little more often. There are hackers in the beta. You can only go to level 10, and you can't get everything in the game, but there are already people hacking. There's someone at the top of the leaderboards with 800% accuracy. How is that possible? Now, I know Crytek isn't going to address that individually because it's a beta. Again, they're not really worried about security in a beta because they're worried about security in the final release. Now, hopefully, they will in fact have better support than they did in the actual Crysis 2 release. And while I didn't play that, I know that when I started playing it maybe 3 or 4 months ago, there were a bunch of people with speed hacks, infinite cloak, aimbots, blah blah blah. It was really sort of stupid. And I hope that there's some more game modes that work with the maps, because as much as I love Crash Site, I can't play it and it alone. And I can't play Hunter alone, because that's basically hide in a bush ops. Because based solely on the beta experience, which is the only thing I have to go on, cloaked figures, while invisible in principle, are still visible from really close range, which is a balance issue, and I like that. But on both airport and museum, there are spots on these maps where an entire team can hole up and cover every entrance, and the hunters probably won't even get past the first couple of cell agents, which is not good. The idea is for the last couple of guys to be the holdout. Everyone should be a hunter at some point. But you don't want the hunters to be so overpowered because they're invisible, and you don't want the cell operatives to be campy so much. You want them to move around a little bit, but there's no reason for the hunters to not run around, and there's no reason for the cell to not camp. Because if you're just gonna camp the whole time, you're gonna win. And if you're a hunter and the other team is camping, you can't win. Because as soon as they come within a certain radius, they're either gonna throw an EMP grenade, or they're going to see you and they're going to shoot you with their much more powerful guns. And if Crytek doesn't address the shotgun issue and the really powerful melee issue, I feel, then Crash Site's not going to be very good, because everyone's just going to start running around with shotguns, cloaked the whole time, and then instantly pick back up where they left off. And people are going to run around with just shotguns, and if they hit once, take out the armor, and they're going to melee, because without armor, melee is a one-hit kill. I also hope they give the submachine gun the feline a little more damage at range. While I think the damage is fine in close range because it fires so fast, it really loses out after a very short distance. And things like the Scarab, which should be a mid to long range gun, are effective at every range, and that's why I preferred it in the beta. I've tried the feline, and while I really like the gun, for the most part it's worthless, because you're better off using the Scarab at any range, close, medium, or long, when the feline should take down enemies quicker from the hip than the Scarab does aiming down sights. But it doesn't. And then you have the snipers, which you have in this game. People sitting in bushes, looking at the objective, not caring about it, but just going and shooting people from range. And I really hope that, while I don't know this perk exists, I hope that they don't have the automatic tag pickup perk like they did in Crysis 2, because that promotes camping. It doesn't promote running around, because there's no reason to run around if, as soon as you kill someone, you automatically pick up the tag. And while that's great for Team Deathmatch, in Team Deathmatch, if all you're doing is running around, is sitting back and sniping, who cares? It's not a fun game mode to play. But what do I actually like about the game now that I've spent 5 minutes ratting on it? Well, I like the gunplay. I like the bullet damage. I like the fact that armor and cloak are in 2 separate energy tiers, and that sprint and that jump don't use up any energy. Because infinite sprint is becoming a necessity, or at least long sprint. Call of Duty's behind the 8 ball, at least in that respect. They need more sprint in Call of Duty just to make the game a little faster. And so infinite sprint in Crysis 3 is nice. And having the shielding and the cloak in different tiers opens up a whole different opportunities for gameplay. You're using your powers more, but you're having to be a little more strategic with your powers, because while you can cloak as equally as long as you can armor, you're not limited by the complete time of both of them. So you can collect a tag while in cloak, immediately come out of armor, but you have to worry about the cloaked enemies around you. And jump and sprint I don't think really needed to be an armor ability. They should just be ambient, which is what they are in Crysis 3, and I think that's a good thing. In single player, I'm curious if you can up the speed even further like you can in Hunter with maximum speed, which I thought was a good idea from the original Crysis. But I hope that some of the perks they have in Hunter aren't actual perks in the game. So you don't have infinite sprint and faster sprint and infinite cloak, because that's overpowered. If you run around and you can shoot while cloaked without any repercussions, it doesn't work in an actual game. In Hunter only is that worthwhile. Which brings me to my last point, why the game is not yet a buy for me. On the whole, I would probably buy it if I didn't have other games to play. But Crysis 3 is something of a holdover game for me. And I basically mean that it would be something I would play between major titles, something I would play between Call of Duty titles, something I would play between Battlefield titles, something to hold me over, give me some leeway between each particular game. And I don't know if that's worth $60 to me. It's worth $40, I think, but it's not worth the $60 they're charging. And without seeing the rest of the maps and the rest of the game modes and how the players are going to play them and how the weapons are going to handle, I can't justify a $60 expense right now. Now, if they address some of the issues I touched on here and other people have touched on in their other videos, then maybe we have something. And if there are better maps than Museum, and they're colorful and they're bright, then yeah, we'll have something. But until I see that, I'm gonna wait.